On our wedding night, my newlywed wife plunged a fruit knife straight into my chest. Afterward, she burst into loud laughter. I didn't understand why she would do this to me. In the moment of my final breath, I struggled to suppress my last gasp, weakly asking her, "Maria, why, after all?" She answered with hatred, "Tony Stark, if it hadn't been for you, Bucky and I wouldn't have been separated by our parents. And he wouldn't have died miserably on the street. It's all your fault, you deserve to die." Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes again, I had been resurrected. This time, I decided to stay far away from Maria, this crazy woman. "Tony Stark, look. Does that new transfer student over there look like Bucky?" The person next to me gently touched my shoulder and whispered. I was startled awake, turning my head to look. And the person next to me was Maria, the one who killed me in the previous life. Immediately, I pinched my thigh hard to see if this was a dream. When I saw Maria's face full of grievance, I was so excited I was on the verge of tears. I had truly been reborn. Reborn back to my senior year in high school, on the very day Bucky transferred to our class. In the previous life, Maria had also propped her chin and stared intently at Bucky, the new transfer student, with a look of infatuation. At the time, I just thought she was joking, saying it for fun. But soon after, I saw her riding behind Bucky on his motorcycle, clutching tightly to his waist, smiling happily like an idiot. This time, I didn't say like in the previous life. In what way? But went along with her. He does look alike. He really looks like the brother you practiced with for 2.5 years. Maria pouted after hearing this, saying to me discontentedly, "You're being too perfunctory." I didn't want to talk to her anymore, lowering my head and pretending to read. But in my mind, I thought, in this life, I must definitely stay away from her. Bucky, the man she was deeply in love with in the previous life, was originally a bad, womanizing guy. I heard that at his old school, girls with decent looks had basically all been flirted with by him. Coupled with his unrestrained, freedom-loving personality, while others were frantically studying for exams, he was still partying and drinking all night at bars in New Orleans. Every time the teacher disciplined him, he would mouth off, "Who says youth only happens once?" But it was precisely this bad boy type that held a fatal attraction for many well-behaved, conformist girls. And Maria was one of them. In the previous life, when Maria plunged the knife into my heart, I couldn't comprehend it. In my last breath, I tried to stay strong, weakly asking her, "Maria, why, after all?" She gritted her teeth and replied, "Tony Stark, if it hadn't been for you then, Bucky and I wouldn't have been separated by our parents. And he wouldn't have died miserably on the street. Everything is your fault, you deserve to die." That moment, I was shocked to realize she had hated me for so long, even though I was truly at fault for having told her parents about her early relationship. But what did Bucky's later death have to do with me? I didn't tell him to go mess around in society. Nor did I tell him to go fight. And I certainly didn't hire someone to stab him to death. If Maria wanted revenge, she should have looked for the gangster who stabbed Bucky to death. Why dump all the blame onto my head? Isn't this unreasonableness opening the door to unreasonableness, with unreasonableness coming right inside? But at that time, I couldn't explain clearly to her. My vision went dark, and I had already ascended. Therefore, being resurrected once again, I absolutely must not interfere with the fate of Maria, this lunatic, to avoid being hated by her again. Indeed, in this life, when Bucky was arranged by the teacher to sit behind Maria, their relationship developed as fast as a rocket. In less than 2.5 days, they were secretly dating. They were like rebellious teenagers in a TV drama, skipping class to play games at internet cafes in Los Angeles, holding hands in heavy rain, kissing under romantic sycamore trees, speeding madly on a motorcycle through the streets at midnight. While they were immersed in love, I was intensely preparing for the university entrance exam. In the previous life, because of Maria, I chose the humanities class. Now, I decided to switch to the science class to restart my life. But suddenly changing classes and catching up with the academic progress was not easy at all. Yet, no matter how difficult, I wanted to try. The day I officially switched classes, Maria angrily ran up to me and asked, "You made such a big decision as switching classes. Why didn't you notify me?" I found it amusing inwardly. Who did Maria think she was to me? Did I have to report everything I did to her? Seeing that I didn't say anything, she questioned loudly, "Why aren't you saying anything?" I calmly told her, "Switching classes is my private matter. It seems I don't have an obligation to report to you. Do I? Know your place." Upon hearing this, she froze for a moment, then irritably said, "Tony Stark, how dare you?" But I didn't wait for her to finish, turning and walking away without regret. A few days later, I accidentally overheard Bucky and a few male students from his class boasting in the men's restroom in Denver. That Maria is like super glue, sticking to me. If it wasn't because she enters a lot of competitions and has some face that I can show off, I wouldn't bother to know her. Another student teased, "Stop bragging. Even Tony Stark, who has good grades and is so handsome, couldn't win Maria over. How could you possibly pursue her?" Bucky confidently said, "Don't you guys not believe me? I kissed her last night. Girls just love my overbearing CEO style. Now she obediently listens to me." Another student said, "I heard she has a dance competition coming up. If you have the guts, tell her not to go and see what happens." Bucky said, "That's easy, just wait and see." I stood in the stall, waiting for their footsteps to fade away before pushing the door open and stepping out. In the previous life, I knew Bucky had bad intentions and hinted to Maria a few times. But she thought I was a backstabber trying to ruin their relationship. Seeing Maria sink deeper and deeper, I hesitated for a long time but still told her parents. In this life, I decided to learn from that experience. Absolutely not interfering with her life or death anymore. But I didn't expect her to actively seek me out. One evening, as I was walking home from school, I saw Maria sitting outside my front door, looking at the beer bottles scattered on the ground. I wondered how much she had drunk. What if she went crazy later? Maria saw me, crawled up from the ground, and pulled my hand, saying, "Tony Stark, Bucky, he's ignoring me now. Can you help me contact him? He suddenly broke up with me today. I don't know what I did wrong. I'm truly at my wit's end. I love him. For Bucky, I can do anything." Looking at the haggard Maria in front of me, I couldn't help but frown. Previously, to stay in shape, she was very careful about her diet and never drank carbonated drinks. She was afraid of affecting her health. But now, for a Bucky, she didn't care about anything anymore. Now, she was nothing like the girl I used to like. I thought for a moment, took out my phone, and called Bucky. "Bucky, Maria is drunk outside my door. She says she wants to see you." Maria stood carefully beside me, her eyes full of anticipation looking at the phone. Bucky on the other end of the line seemed to laugh mockingly. "Ask her, does she really love me? Loves me enough to do anything for me?" I put the call on speaker, and Maria naturally heard it. She immediately spoke loudly. "Of course, you want me to do anything. Just please don't abandon me. Then don't go participate in the dance competition." With that, Bucky hung up the phone. Only Maria was left standing stunned in place. Actually, I also wanted to see in this life, without my interference, what Maria would choose. Future or love, which one would she choose? Maria was dazed for a moment, then muttered, "Is this really the only way to prove I love Bucky?" I didn't answer her, only watched her leave in dejection. Afterward, Maria indeed did not go to participate in the dance competition. Because her leg was injured. I don't know if it was a coincidence, or if she intentionally injured herself. Anyway, one day I accidentally overheard my mother talking. Maria's mother told my mother that Maria had been too unlucky recently. She clearly could have won an award in the dance competition and received a special admission slot for university. But unfortunately, she sprained her ankle right before the competition. Because of this, Maria's mother wanted to invite my mother to go to church in Washington, D.C. to pray for peace. After hearing this, I chuckled coldly, thinking to myself, Maria, a person suffering from terminal love-crazed disease, like this. Her mother going to pray to God won't save her. A few days later, I indeed saw Maria and Bucky walking home sweetly holding hands again. Bucky held a cigarette in his left hand, blowing smoke into Maria's face. Maria looked like she was enjoying it, even standing on her toes to kiss his cheek. Bucky then pulled her into a small alley, took a drag from his cigarette, and slowly blew the smoke into her mouth. Immediately after, Maria actively wrapped her arms around Bucky's neck and kissed him. Instantly, they were like fire meeting the sky and earth, kissing until saliva strings were drawn. Not long after, right in broad daylight, Bucky picked up Maria and carried her into a small nearby motel. In the previous life, when I saw them renting a room, I went crazy and rushed to stop them. But I was pushed away by Maria. She even irritably said to me, "Tony Stark, who are you to me? Why do you have to manage me?" In this life, not only did I not manage her, but I also hoped she would sink deep without an escape. Soon after, we entered the monthly exam period. Maria's results were not unexpected, a dismal failure, ranking 10th from the bottom of the grade level. As for me, this time I shot straight into the top 10 of the grade level, making teachers and friends start looking at me differently. I thought to myself, ever since I stopped bothering with Maria's nonsense, everything I did went much smoother. One day during the break, I went to the teacher's office to ask a difficult math problem, when I accidentally saw Maria's mother coming to see her homeroom teacher. Maria's mother used a pleading voice to tell the homeroom teacher, "Ms. Lauma, Maria's scores in the recent exams have been truly awful. Is there any way to help my daughter raise her grades in a short time?" At this point, the teacher told her about Maria and Bucky's early relationship. Maria's mother seemed to awaken from a dream, finally understanding why Maria had been so abnormal recently. Stepping out of the teacher's office, she went mad, grabbing a student passing by to ask where Bucky was. When she found Bucky, she raised her hand and slapped him, like a thunderbolt. The hallway, which was noisy with students playing, suddenly fell silent. Bucky held his face, staring at her in disbelief, yelling, "Where did this crazy old woman come from? Why do you dare to hit me?" Maria's mother looked at him with a cold laugh. "Why, just because you're young and not focused on your studies. But go and seduce my daughter. Do you know you've ruined her bright future? Do you know how much effort I've put into raising her until now?" Bucky heard this and rolled his eyes. "Please be clear, your precious daughter desperately wanted to be with me. It's not like I held a knife to her throat and forced her to love me." Maria's mother turned pale with rage upon hearing this, raising her hand to tear at Bucky's hair. Just then, Maria, who must have heard the news from somewhere, rushed over. She shielded Bucky behind her, even shouting at her mother, "Mom, if you want to hit someone, hit me. I deliberately wanted to be with him." Maria's mother probably didn't expect her normally obedient, sensible daughter to dare to confront her for a boy like that. She was so angry that she trembled all over, almost collapsing. She raised her hand and slapped Maria, then heartbrokenly said to her, "If it were Tony Stark, such an outstanding boy, I could still accept it. But why do you have to be with this low-grade street thug? Do you want to make me die of anger?" Unexpectedly being mentioned by Maria's mother, I just wanted to quickly escape this place of contention. But at this moment, everyone there looked my way. Bucky angrily pointed at me. "Tony Stark, it turns out you're the tattletale." Maria looked at me, pursing her lips without saying a word. But that gaze was incredibly terrifying. I felt helpless, clearly. In this life, I hadn't interfered with their affairs at all. Yet, why was I still dragged into it? I spread my hands and said loudly to them, "Your business has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into it. And ma'am, please clarify to these two whether this was reported to you by me." But Bucky still insisted that I was the tattletale. At this point, Maria's homeroom teacher also rushed over. She pulled Maria's mother aside, telling her to calm down. Maria's mother finally suppressed her anger. "If your homeroom teacher hadn't told me, I wouldn't even know what you've been secretly doing behind my back." I guessed that Maria and Bucky were being intimate at school, and were seen by another student who reported it to the homeroom teacher. Therefore, the homeroom teacher was forced to call Maria's mother, hoping that she, as a parent, could manage Maria properly. In any case, this time I was considered to have cleared my name of tattling. After that day, their affair was known by almost the entire school. Early relationships often happened at school, and sometimes parents would make a scene. Most ended with the couple breaking up. More serious situations resulted in one of them having to transfer schools. Their loud disturbance was considered a particularly serious offense. Bucky was an athlete, and his academic performance was already poor. He thought that relying on his talent, getting into university wouldn't be a problem. He naturally refused to transfer schools because of Maria. He even felt very wronged, often complaining to his friends, "I've been in love so many times, and nothing ever happened." As soon as I got involved with this Maria, I ran into all kinds of trouble. If it wasn't because she listens to me unconditionally, I would have dumped her long ago. One night, I was studying late, when I suddenly heard the sound of an ambulance downstairs in San Diego. Afterward, I saw my parents hastily putting on coats and rushing out. I followed them. I saw Maria's parents carrying Maria out. Maria's left wrist was bleeding continuously. I looked at her face, and it had lost all color. As she passed me, she was still murmuring, "Tony Stark, help me relay a message to Bucky. That for him, I am truly willing to do anything, even die. Please beg him not to abandon me." I stood rooted to the spot, as if point frozen. I thought to myself, this crazy woman is almost bled out. But she's still thinking about that man. Maria's left wrist tendon was severed. Even though it was reattached, it couldn't return to its former state. But she didn't care at all, only saying it was proof that she loved Bucky. It was her fiery youth. Only I knew that she could have stood on stage, become a famous ballet dancer, and enjoyed everyone's admiring gaze. But in this life, Maria chose a completely opposite path for herself. Students looked at the clear scar on her hand, left from self-inflicted wrist cutting. With eyes full of astonishment and incomprehension, Maria proudly told her friends, "The scar on my hand is the medal of love between Bucky and me." The students frowned upon hearing this, looking at her like she was a lunatic. In the second semester of senior year, I focused all my energy on the final sprint. Only occasionally, during dinner, would I hear my mother mention Maria. My mother recounted that Maria's mother often came to her recently to complain. Bucky demanded expensive gifts from Maria. Things like a basketball worth several $100s, a leather bag worth thousands of dollars, and a motorcycle worth tens of thousands of dollars. As long as Bucky asked, Maria would buy it for him. But where did she get so much money? Didn't she go back and ask her parents? Maria's mother tearfully told my mother. She finally asked my mother to also advise Maria, hoping she could come to her senses. I listened with high alert, hastily telling my mother, "Mom, stop interfering in other people's family matters, lest you waste your effort and invite trouble." My mother found my words reasonable, finally just sighing, "Maria, such a good girl has been ruined. What a pity." I remembered in the previous life, I also couldn't bear to see Maria destroy her future, and wanted to pull her out of the mudhole that was Bucky. But in the end, not only did she not thank me, she hated me to the core. In this life, let Maria live the life she wants. Even if she rots, in the end, it's her own choice. After eating, I buried myself back into my homework. After a few months of forgetting to eat and sleep effort, I finally completed the university entrance exam satisfactorily. As for Maria, because her hand was injured, she failed the art exam. She had no choice but to take the general university entrance exam. After the university entrance exam, the class president organized a teacher appreciation party. He also invited me, who had once been in the same class as them, to attend. I thought Maria and Bucky probably wouldn't have the face to show up, so I accepted. Unexpectedly, on that day, both of them came. Maria wore a tight black dress, her hair dyed blonde and styled in large curls. She looked mature, unlike a girl our age. Bucky wore a black leather motorcycle jacket and ripped jeans, his hair also dyed blonde. His whole demeanor was very thuggish. After eating, the homeroom teacher left first. The remaining students started to let loose, talking freely. Suddenly, Grace Hopper, a diligent student from the class, spoke in a voice that was not too loud or too soft, but loud enough for everyone present to hear. I don't know what Maria has to be proud of. A student dressed like a streetwalker. Maria and Bucky always showed off in class. Before, during evening self-study, they often talked privately. Sometimes, Bucky even touched Maria. At these times, Maria not only didn't refuse but also let out ambiguous sounds. All of their behavior particularly bothered the students sitting nearby, who found it extremely unsightly. Grace Hopper, before I switched to the science class, always sat behind Bucky. She must have been disgusted by them quite a bit. I heard that her estimated score this time was not ideal. She must have been harboring a lot of resentment toward Maria and Bucky, who had affected her studies. But who knew Maria wouldn't get angry upon hearing those words but instead laughed, mocking Grace Hopper. "What, are you jealous because I have a boyfriend and you don't? Or do you like my boyfriend too?" After speaking, Maria turned back, smiling charmingly at Bucky. Grace Hopper snorted coldly. "Maria, only you would treat Bucky like a treasure." Bucky's face immediately darkened upon hearing this. He stood up and said, "You're so ugly, you deserve to have no man want you." With that, Bucky turned and passionately kissed Maria next to him. Saliva strings drawn. Oh my God, did he really think Grace Hopper liked him? And was intentionally kissing Maria to provoke her? Where did this person get his confidence from? "Bucky, Maria, if you want to be intimate, there's a small motel next door in Las Vegas. You two can go there and unleash your passion." The class president couldn't stand it and said loudly to them. But they seemed unwilling to give up the opportunity to perform in front of everyone. They continued to kiss fervently. Many students complained of eye strain and stood up one after another to leave. But when I also stood up to leave, Bucky let go of Maria and blocked my way. He looked at me with smugness. "Don't think I don't know. You've actually always liked Maria. But I advise you, stop trying to. The toad wants to eat swan meat. Maria is already my woman." I sneered. "Bucky, not everyone treats Maria like a treasure." With that, I didn't want to get tangled up with the two of them anymore. I walked straight out of the restaurant. Waiting for a car, I couldn't help but think, these two are truly a perfect match. Both think they are the center of the universe, unaware that in the eyes of others, they are just a pair of crazy man, crazy woman. Tony Stark. I heard someone call me from behind. Turning back to look, it was Maria. She walked up to me, stammering for a long time before saying, "Don't mind Bucky's words, he just cares too much about me." I looked at her face and suddenly asked a question that had weighed heavily on my mind for a long time. "Maria, do you truly think it was worth it?" She looked at me, completely confused, seemingly not understanding why I would ask that. I asked again, "Giving up ballet, giving up your studies, do you truly think it was worth it, Maria?" She was stunned for a moment, then laughed and said, "Yes, it was, because every day spent with Bucky, I feel very comfortable and free." I was dumbfounded upon hearing this. I thought to myself, this kind of freedom to decline is not true freedom. But outwardly, I only said, "In that case, I hope you still think so in the future." Just then, Bucky chased out of the restaurant. Seeing me and Maria talking by the side of the road, he didn't ask any questions, but lunged forward and slapped Maria across the face. "You've got some nerve, Maria. You said you were going to the bathroom, but you secretly ran out here to flirt with men." Maria held her face, not at all angry about being hit, but rather delicately said to Bucky, "Bucky, I'm pregnant with your child. Why are you still not reassured about me? From beginning to end, I only have you in my heart." Immediately, I was so shocked my jaw dropped. They were only 18 and were about to become parents? And the line Maria just said, which TV drama was that from? It sounded so familiar. Just then, a taxi drove past. I immediately waved my hand. Waiting for the car to stop, I opened the door and quickly got in. I was afraid that if I delayed for one more second, I would be drawn into their farce again. In the car, I looked in the rearview mirror. Unexpectedly, in that brief moment, They were already embracing each other again, kissing passionately. It turned out that Bucky's slap just now was merely a prelude. And I was probably just a link in the drama of this pair of crazy man, crazy woman. Not long after, the university entrance exam results were announced. Maria and Bucky didn't even pass a vocational school. As for me, thanks to my final months of forgetting to eat and sleep effort, I was admitted to a university in the capital city in Washington, D.C. I was truly very happy, because I not only got into the good school I wanted, but I could also completely stay away from that pair of crazy man, crazy woman. To celebrate my university admission, my parents specially reserved a hotel ballroom, inviting relatives and friends. As neighbors, Maria's parents were naturally invited as well. Maria naturally didn't attend. My father, who wasn't usually good with words, drank until his face was red, raising his glass to toast everyone. When toasting Maria's parents, my father couldn't help but say, "Maria, that child is truly a pity." Maria's mother heard this, her eyes reddened, and her expression was incredibly awkward. She managed to force a smile. Fortunately, my mother quickly covered the mistake, saying, "University isn't the only path. If you're gold, you'll shine anywhere." My father immediately understood, forcing a smile. Yes, yes. In a flash, the summer break passed, and high school classmates went their separate ways. During my first semester at university, I occasionally heard the next chapter of their story in the class group chat. I heard they had held a wedding. Since they weren't of legal age, they hadn't registered the marriage. Bucky worked as a delivery driver, no longer having his former, elegant and charming, appearance. As for Maria, after giving birth, she stayed home to look after the child and didn't work. Later, because I focused on my studies, I stopped opening the high school group chat. After graduation, because I had foreknowledge of some future developments from my past life, I managed to get into a good company. In less than 5 years, I was continuously promoted, becoming an admired elite young professional. Many girls also expressed interest in me, but I still hadn't met the person who made my heart flutter. My parents suggested many times that I go on blind dates, but each time, I would only deflect the topic. Finally, one day my father asked me over the phone, "Tony Stark, you're not still thinking about that neighbor Maria, are you?" I was stunned. It had been a very long time since I had heard Maria's name. I chuckled coldly. "Dad, how could I be? If you're not, that's good." He seemed relieved to hear me say that. As for me, I only found his last sentence ridiculous. In this life, let alone pining for Maria, I felt disgusted just hearing her name. But unexpectedly, while home for the Christmas break, I, unluckily, ran into a pregnant Maria in the elevator. After many years, she almost made me not recognize her. Now, Maria no longer had any of the style of the former ballet goddess. Her once lustrous black hair was now inexplicably sparse, and the part in her hair was wide enough to see 2 fingers. Her facial skin was not only dull and rough but also full of wrinkles. Her entire body looked incredibly haggard. But the biggest change was not her appearance. It was her eyes. Previously, there was light in her eyes. But now, her eyes were like dead wood, with only fatigue and numbness remaining. I thought it might be because her parents had died together in a car accident not long before. The shock was too great, causing her to become so dazed and lifeless. "Tony Stark, is that you?" Maria's voice carried a hint of uncertainty as she called my name. Perhaps she didn't expect to meet me in the elevator. I nodded in greeting to her, then lowered my head to reply to a friend's Christmas wishes. But Maria actively started a conversation with me. "Tony Stark, have you been doing well these past few years?" I replied indifferently. "I'm all right, how about you?" She gave a bitter laugh. "Just average, I've been stuck at home as a full-time housewife these past few years. I thought once the child started kindergarten, I could go out and look for a job. Who knew I'd get pregnant with the second one?" When Maria said this, the disappointment and regret in her eyes were unmistakable. I secretly thought, serves her right. A moment later, we reached the 3rd floor. When the elevator door opened, I immediately felt relieved. Even after many years, I still occasionally dreamed of the scene where she killed me in the previous life. Therefore, being alone with Maria made my palms sweat. After all, if she really flipped out, she was capable of taking a life. As I was about to enter my apartment, I heard Bucky roar right as Maria opened the door to their apartment next door. "Maria, I told you to go buy a few bottles of wine, so what took you so long? Where's the wine? Why didn't you buy any?" My heart suddenly clenched. Bucky's attitude toward a pregnant Maria was so awful. It seemed that these few years of marriage had caused their former, passionate, love to gradually fade. That evening, my parents and I ate dinner, sitting in front of the TV to watch a show. Suddenly, we heard a clatter from the apartment next door. Immediately afterward, there was a child's mournful scream. "Dad, don't be like this." My mother heard it and sighed. Poor Maria. Whenever her husband gets drunk, he likes to act crazy at home. Sometimes he even hits her and Matteo. I asked who Matteo was. My father answered for my mother. Matteo is Maria's eldest son. He seems to be only 4 years old this year. The boy is very obedient and sensible. But I don't know why his father keeps hitting him at home. No sooner had my father finished speaking, we heard a woman's, heart-wrenching, cry from the next door apartment. My mother worriedly turned to my father and said, "Dear, should we go over and try to intervene a little?" My father nodded, and just as he was about to stand up, I quickly stopped him. "It's someone else's family matter. It's best if we outsiders don't interfere, lest we waste our effort and invite trouble." But my mother didn't listen. "No, I watched Maria grow up. I can't just stand by and watch." I was afraid the two elderly people would run into trouble, so I quietly followed them. But just as we were about to knock on the door, we saw Maria embracing Matteo walking out. Her face was covered in bruises, in patches, and the corner of her mouth was bleeding. Matteo, in her arms, was sobbing, his eyes filled with tears. They looked truly pitiful. "Where do you think you're going, Maria?" Bucky charged over, grabbing Maria's hair. He dragged her back, completely disregarding the fact that there were people standing at the door. "Stop it, is hitting a woman the mark of a man?" My father stepped in, angrily scolding him. Bucky looked at my parents, then looked at me, and gave a cold laugh. "Maria is my wife, I'll hit her whenever I want. You people can't control me." "Bucky, even if Maria is your wife, hitting people is against the law," my mother said, stepping forward to try and pull his hand away from Maria's hair. But he roughly pushed her away. My father and I cried out in unison, rushing to support her. "Dad, take Mom home first, and Maria." My mother was still worried about Maria's safety. "I'm here, Mom," I helplessly shouted at her, hoping they would leave quickly. Only then did my mother and father turn back. After they left, I said to Bucky, "We haven't met for many years. How did you become the type of person who even hits women?" He sneered. "Isn't it because of this bitch? She deserves to be hit." Seeing his face flushed and his eyes unfocused, he was clearly drunk and out of control. I was too lazy to talk to him anymore and immediately prepared to call the police. "No, Tony Stark, you absolutely mustn't call the police." Maria saw my intention and stopped me. I looked at her, confused. Maria looked straight into my eyes and said, "Bucky didn't mean it. He just drank too much and couldn't control himself. He'll be fine once he sobers up." Hearing her say that, I was so angry I laughed. "If it weren't for my parents, I'd be too lazy to bother with you." With that, I turned my back and left their apartment. Back at home in New York City, my mother pulled me aside and asked how they were. I said indifferently, "One of them is willing to hit, and the other is willing to take it. Mom, don't worry about it anymore. Look at the time, go get some rest." My mother had no choice but to go to the bedroom upon hearing me say that. But in the middle of the night, Maria knocked on my door again. My mother opened the door, letting her and Matteo into the house. She just silently wept, not saying a word. Matteo, on the other hand, sobbed and said, "Dad got drunk tonight, and started hitting Mom and me again." Hearing the child speak, my heart clenched. It seemed that Bucky frequently got drunk and became violent at home. No wonder when I saw Maria this time, Her whole demeanor had changed. She no longer had the freshness and radiance she once did. She was barely 30, yet she exuded a look of being on the verge of death. I thought Maria couldn't endure the shock of losing her parents. Unexpectedly, she was living in Bucky's violence. Bang, bang, bang. My front door was being violently pounded. No need to guess, it was definitely Bucky. "Come out, Maria. Don't think I don't know you're in there," he was shouting while pounding the door. At this moment, Maria was shaking with fear. She cried while pulling my mother's hand, saying, "Auntie, please don't open the door. He drank a lot after you and Uncle left tonight. He's in a fit of madness right now." My mother saw her trembling non-stop and quickly comforted her. "All right, we won't open it, we won't open it, don't be afraid." I couldn't help but frown. Why did this Maria keep haunting me? Clearly, I had wanted to call the police to help her find protection earlier. But she herself refused. Now that Bucky had hit her severely, she ran to my house for help. Was it possible that whether in the previous life or this life, our family was a link in their ridiculous love affair? I quietly returned to my room and closed the door. I immediately took out my phone and called the police. Let the police handle this matter. My family and I couldn't be her shield forever. Maria herself wasn't clear-headed. Being hit was well-deserved. It's been 5 years. I don't believe this is the first time Bucky hit you. Yet Maria still accepted it. Not only did she not divorce, but she was pregnant with their second child. Doesn't she think the child in this kind of family, living in fear day and night, is pitiful? Maria, get your butt out here. Do you think Tony Stark is rich now, and you want to come back for him? But you're about to be the mother of 2 children. Do you think he'd still like you? Bucky was still shouting loudly outside the door. Maria's face immediately flushed red upon hearing this. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. Seeing my unpleasant expression, she timidly lowered her head again, crying even harder. At this moment, we only heard Bucky suddenly shout outside the door, "I'm a good person, officer, I'm a good person." I walked over and looked through the peephole. Indeed, the police had arrived in Los Angeles. Maria saw the police arrive, pointed straight at my face, and questioned harshly, "Tony Stark, who gave you permission to call the police?" "Bucky, he's only like this because he's drunk." I loudly cut her off. "You tell the police, don't tell me. This is your business. Don't drag me and my family into it." Maria was left, speechless, by me, unable to utter a word. At this time, neighbors from upstairs and downstairs also ran out to watch. They, one sentence from one person, one sentence from another, aired all their grievances. Uncle Ten Hag from the second floor said, "Officer, you don't know. This couple smashes things 3 days a week. It's so loud that my son can't study properly." Aunt Perez from the 4th floor, wearing pajamas, angrily said, "That's right, officer. He frequently beats his wife until she screams and cries. One night I woke up and heard it, and I thought it was a ghost haunting. I was so scared I had to take heart medication." Seeing this, the police wanted to take the reeking of alcohol Bucky back to the station for questioning. Only then did he panic, seemingly sobering up. He bowed and scraped, explaining to the 2 police officers, "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. I drank a bit too much tonight. And it's hard to avoid speaking loudly when talking. But I've always been a good, law-abiding citizen." Maria also rushed over to explain with him. "That's right, officer. He was just temporarily drunk, joking around with my son and me." The police looked at the injuries on Maria's face, said nothing, and took Bucky away. As for disturbing the public order, they only gave a warning and criticism. Maria, holding her son, also followed them. In a short while, the world finally became quiet. The next morning, I told my parents that I planned to take advantage of this Christmas break to take them traveling. My parents were very happy to hear this. The 2 elderly people had worked hard all their lives, and had actually never left the province. We quickly packed our bags and drove straight south. There was blue sea, blue sky, and a warm climate there. Very suitable for elderly people to travel during winter. Actually, I intended to take them next month after applying for leave. But now I had to expedite this trip. to prevent my parents from staying at home and being bothered by Maria again. Unexpectedly, on the third day we arrived at the resort. My mother saw a shocking piece of news in the residential group chat. The main character of the news was Maria. She had been stabbed to death by Bucky at home. My mother watched it in disbelief, hurriedly calling Aunt Perez upstairs, asking what exactly happened. Aunt Perez's second daughter worked at the police station, so she naturally had inside information. It turned out that after Bucky was taken away by the police that day, Maria ran to plead for him. She said the injuries on her body were self-inflicted and had nothing to do with Bucky, and that she had a self-harm tendency, liking to hit herself for no reason. The more painful it was, the more relieved she felt inside. That's why her face always had injuries. The police knew Maria was lying, but had no evidence. They couldn't help her even if they wanted to. They could only criticize Bucky for disturbing the public order at night and then release him. But that evening, neighbors heard Maria crying and screaming again. Only this time, no one called the police to help her anymore. One more day passed. Aunt Perez returned from visiting relatives and saw Mateo covered in blood in the elevator. She thought the child had been injured by Bucky's beating and hurriedly called the police. But when the police contacted the child's parents, both Maria's and Bucky's phones were turned off. So they took Mateo back to the apartment to look for them. They knocked for half an hour but no one opened the door. Until Mateo suddenly said, "Mom, knife, blood, baby." The police realized something was seriously wrong upon hearing this. After finding tools to break down the door and enter, they saw Maria lying in a pool of blood. A fruit knife was plunged straight into her chest. She died with her eyes open. And Bucky had disappeared. My mother learned all this, grieving non-stop, shedding tears. As for me, I only felt shocked. It turned out that when I stopped interfering with Maria's karma, she ended up with this fate. And in the previous life, because of my kindness, it led to me having to die in her place. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but clench my fists, breaking out in a cold sweat. A month later, I bought my parents a high-end apartment in my hometown in California. It had a front and back garden. The two elderly people loved it. In this life, I must live well so that my parents can enjoy their old age in peace. When I returned home for the Labor Day holiday, our whole family was gathered to wrap dumplings. When Aunt Perez called, my mother put the phone on speaker, chatting with her while wrapping dumplings. She mentioned Bucky. "Ah, today I heard from my daughter. That scoundrel Bucky has been found by the police." My mother quickly asked, "Found where?" Aunt Perez said, "Right in the small alley next to the farmer's market." "You don't know, when he was found, Bucky's body was chopped to pieces." I heard this, and my head buzzed. The dumpling I was wrapping in my hand fell to the ground. Bucky was stabbed to death by someone. In this life, he ended up with the same fate as the previous life. Only this time, Maria no longer had to blame his death on me. Tony Stark, what are you spacing out about? My father touched me with his hand and said. Only then did I snap back, smiling. It's nothing, Dad. I was just thinking about where to take you and Mom on vacation for the holiday. My parents smiled with satisfaction upon hearing this. In this life, I could finally live in peace. No longer tormented by Maria, that crazy woman.